10th. This is a meeting of the Personnel Committee. To my left is Councilman Kendall, to my right is Councilman Twist, and I'm Alan Clark, the chairman. We're here to meet today to provide a recommendation to council regarding the recommendation of the Troy Recreation Board that council amend the salary ordinance to establish the position of a concessions, food, and beverage manager at the pay grade of MGT1, salary range of $47,994.95 to $56,233.02. And I see Ms. Slater in the audience, Mr. Hobart in the audience, and Mr. Seiler in the audience. Mr. Titterington, Mr. Seiler will be addressing us.
Yes.
Welcome, Mr. Seiler.
Thank you. I want to just maybe first give you a real quick snapshot of where we currently are with the Hobart Arena concessions operations for a little bit of background. Since we renovated the building approximately 15 years ago, we have put the concessions operation out to bid. So it is operated by an outside concessionaire. And as part of that contract, that concessionaire pays a flat monthly rental rate to the arena for the rights to provide non-alcoholic beverage and food concessions. The current monthly rate for that current concessions contract is $825 a month. And then in addition to that, it's $150 per professional sporting event or any cheer competitions that we may schedule. That equates to about $10,800 per year from the non-alcoholic and food concessions operations. So, as I'm sure you're aware, as part of this renovation project that we're currently in the process of working through, the plan is to expand the concessions operation significantly to, one, provide a better experience for the consumer, and two, to potentially to better maximize our profitability from the concessions operations. As part of the feasibility study that was done in 2014 by Crossroads Consulting, they had the Bigelow Companies, which is a nationally recognized concessions consultant, do a study on our operations for concessions. And they itemized a list of many recommendations of things that we could do to improve our concessions operations. A lot of those will be addressed in the design and construction piece of the puzzle. The one piece that is personnel related would be related to what we want to do with regard to our operations of concessions moving forward from this point, and then also once we get through and complete the renovation project. The current concessions contract with our concessionaire expires at the end of June of this year, so we're less than a month away from that time frame. The Rec Board has made a recommendation that we move forward with not bidding that out again to an outside contracted concessionaire, and that we look at potentially hiring a full-time food and beverage or concessions manager to oversee that operation in-house per the recommendation of the Bigelow Companies from the feasibility study. So that's how we kind of got to this point with regard to the Recreation Board's recommendation. That position would oversee the concessions operation at the arena in addition to the seasonal operation of the concessions at the pool. And those would tend to complement each other relatively well because generally speaking, the season during the summer months at the arena is considerably slower than it is during the fall and winter months. So the operations obviously at the pool are from around Memorial Day to around Labor Day. So those two operations would complement each other well. Our short-term plan would be to hire this person on, potentially effective around September 1st of this year, in an effort to get that person on board become familiar with our operations, begin to work on hiring some part-time staffing, develop policies, procedures, and also to provide their input and expertise with the planning of completing the renovation project. So what we would intend to do then is have that person operate the current concession stands the way in which they currently are, with some modifications, until we get the renovation completed. And then at that point, they would operate, obviously, the new stands in a much more involved and extensive concessions operation. The other part of that plan and a recommendation from the consultant would be to have local nonprofits, volunteer groups help us with that operation of the concessions, like many facilities do across the country. It would help us from a staffing perspective to be able to get the number of people we need to staff concessions, and also it would allow us to, contribute back to local nonprofits here in the community. So at this time, the board is essentially recommending that staffing piece of the puzzle, which is to, in lieu of bidding the concessions out again to an outside contractor, to look at hiring a full-time concessions manager in-house and to oversee that operations through the renovation and then obviously post-renovation. So I don't know what other questions or what questions you may have. I know I kind of covered a lot of information there. I believe you received some information or a summary of an estimate of kind of what we receive in revenue currently with the contract the way it is, what we would foresee that being during the renovation period, and then long-term what we would foresee it being once we get through and completed with the renovation project. And also included in that information was just a preliminary draft of what we foresee the scope of that person's job responsibilities being.
Thanks, I appreciate that. That person would be revenue neutral, so he would make enough to pay for his own salary and some.
Yes. Based on the numbers that were provided to us by Bigelow Companies for projections, based on where we are with current number of events and where we can expect to be post-renovation, by combining our non-alcoholic food and beverage with our alcoholic beverage service and with merchandise revenue, it should result in a net gain as opposed to being just at neutral.
Okay, good. And the rec board was unanimous in approving this?
It was unanimous. There were, I believe, 4 members at that particular meeting when the action was taken. 4 out of the 5 were there.
I don't have any other questions. Mr. Kendall?
No, your report was quite good and answered all the questions I had. So,
Mr. Twist?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. My first one is, will this salary attract a manager that has previous experience? Is that like a person that has 1 to 3 years of experience, or is it 5 to 10 years? What's this salary, who's that going to attract into the position?
The salary range that we are proposing was a recommendation, again, from Bigelow Companies based on what kind of the job market is out there for these types of positions across the country and in these type of venues. The other recommendation was him that potentially another source for that type of position to be filled would be through a local restaurant association, so someone that has food and beverage experience through that type of operation as well. So the salary that was established was taken off of his recommendation and expertise that he has across the country.
Okay, good. Just make sure you don't have someone that has no experience whatsoever. We're attracting the quality manager that we need to be successful. And I forget what my other question was now. So.
Okay, well, you can open it up anytime. Mrs. Snee, any questions?
None for me, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? Mr. Hobart, did you have any input from what Mr. Seiler hasn't said you'd like to share? Okay, and Mrs. Slater? Okay,
I have a I remember what it was. If we vote for the recommendation of the concession stands, we are saying that we're not putting out to bid.
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, which is good. Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
okay. I don't have anything else. Mr. Kendall?
I'm in favor. We go
Okay.
forward.
Mr. Twist?
In favor.
Okay, I'd like to move forward. Do you need emergency legislation? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anything else to come before personnel?
No, sir.
Okay. That'll be the end of the personnel committee meeting. Thank you.
Utilities.